Good morning, students. Today I shall show you a program in Java that will accept the first name, middle name and last name of a person and then append them into a text area control. So for that, let me first open the NetBeans IDE. Now I shall bring the mouse cursor over here. This is the icon of NetBeans IDE version 8.2. I shall double click on this icon. And this brings me to the startup screen of NetBeans IDE version 8.2. Now this particular region is the Project Explorer, which lists all the available open Java projects. Now since only this particular project is open, so this is being listed here inside the Project Explorer. And the name of this open project is currency $2. This was the project that I have already created in my previous presentation. But the rest of these projects are all closed, and since these projects are closed, they are not listed here in this Project Explorer. As a result, this Project Explorer, which lists all the available open projects, has only one project in it, and that is currency $2. Now, in order to develop this program that shall accept the first name, middle name and last name of a person as inputs in 3 different text fields and then append them or add them into a text area control, I have to first create a Java project. So let me create a Java project now. Now I shall bring the mouse cursor over here. This is the menu section where I am going to select File and then choose New Project. This brings me to another window where I shall select Java under the Categories section and Java Application under the Projects section. This is because I am going to develop this program in Java. And once I choose these options, I shall come below and click this Next button. This brings me to another window where I shall have to specify the project name. By default, the project name is Java Application 38. But I shall rename that project name into TextArea Bean. So let me do that. So now our project has a name which is TextArea Bean. Now I shall come below and then untick this checkbox. This is because I don't want to create a main class for my project. I shall use a different class instead. And once this is done, I shall come here and click on this Finish button to create the project. So here it is. This is our project specified by the name TextArea Bean. So our first step is completed. I have created a new project in NetBeans and then I have named it as TextArea Bean. Now let's come to the second step. In this step, I shall add a new JFrame into my project. And for that, I shall have to come over here and I shall right click on this project and then choose New. And then in this drop down menu, I shall choose JFrame Form. So this brings me to another window where I shall have to specify the class name. By default, the class name is New JFrame. Now I shall rename this to TextArea Demo. As a result, our project specified by the name TextArea Bean has a class, and the name of that class is TextArea Demo. Now you remember in my previous step, I have unticked that main class because instead of using that main class, I am going to use this class, okay, which is TextArea Demo. and after specifying the class name, I shall come over here and click on this finish button. This shall create our new JFrame form. So here it is. This is our new JFrame form. Now I shall drag its ends to increase its size. Now this white colored box like region, okay, which contains this gray colored JFrame form is the design window. So we can say that this JFrame form is placed inside this design window. Now just as this JFrame form has been created, I can see the JFrame form as its name gets displayed in the navigator window. Now this navigator window shall show all the components that is inside this design window. At present there is only one component inside this design window, which is this JFrame form. That is why you can see the name of only JFrame form inside this navigator window. Then let's move to step number 3. It says drag 3 swing labels and place them vertically one below another on the JFrame. So let me do that. This is the swing control section. Now I shall choose the first label, okay, and drop it over here. In the same way, I shall choose the second label and drop it over here, and then the third label I shall again drop it over here. Now I have placed all these labels vertically, and this has been asked here. We need to place them vertically one below another on the frame. So these labels are placed vertically one after another. Now the next thing I have to do is to set the text property of the first, second and the third label as first name, middle name and last name respectively. Now let me set the text property of the first label, which is identified by the name JLabel1 as first name. Okay, for that I have to move over here in this property window, that is the text option. Now I shall change the text from JLabel1 into first name. And once I have done that, I can see the text first name being inscribed onto this label instead of JLabel1. But note one thing, that the name of this label is still JLabel1. Okay, what I have changed now is only the text of the label. Okay, so the text of the label has changed from JLabel1 into first name. And in the same way, I shall change the text property of the second label to middle name. Okay, by default the text property of the second label shows JLabel2, so I'm going to change this to middle name. So here it is, the text property of the second label has changed into middle name, but the name of this label is still JLabel2. Okay, only the text of this label has changed into middle name. And for the last label, I shall set the text property to last name. Okay, and once I do this, I can see the text last name being inscribed onto this label. But keep in mind, the name of this label is still JLabel3. Okay, only the text of this label has changed. Okay, previously it was JLabel3 itself. Now I have changed it to last name. Now let me increase the font size of each of these labels. So for that, let me choose the first label, and in the properties window let me choose font. So let me keep the font family as Tahoma itself. Okay, now I shall change the font style to bold. Okay, by default it was plain. Now I have set it to bold, and let me specify the size as 14. Okay, then I shall click on this OK button. As a result, the size of the text inscribed in the first label has increased, and the same thing I'm going to do that for the second label, okay, with the text middle name. So for that, let me choose the style as bold and the size as 14. Okay, so you can see the changes. The font size has increased and it has become bold, and the same thing I'm going to do that for this text inside the last label. So for that, I'm going to change the font style again to bold for that text and the size to 14. So now I can see the increase in font size for each of these label texts, and it has become bold. Then the next thing I have to do is to drag and drop 3 text field controls besides each label. Okay, so now let me place 3 text field controls besides each label. Okay, so this is the first text field control that I have placed besides the label first name. Then this is the second text field control that I have placed besides the label middle name, and the third text field control I have placed besides the label last name. Now let me increase the size of these text fields. So I have increased the size of these text fields by dragging its ends. Now each of these text fields has a text inscribed on it. These are JText field 1 for the first text field, JText field 2 for the second text field, and JText field 3 for the third text field. But now, as asked here, I have to clear the text property of all these text fields. Now let me clear the text property of the first text field. Okay, for that I shall remove this text JText field 1 under the text option. As a result, the text property of the first text field is cleared, and now the text field is entirely blank. Now let me clear the text property of the second text field. Okay, and again let me clear the text property of the third text field. As a result, all these text fields are blank now, because I have cleared the text property of each of those text fields. Now the next thing I have to do is to drag a button control and place it on the right side of the last text box. So this is the last text box, and I'm going to place a button control, okay, towards the right of this text box, okay, that is over here. So now let me drag the button control, okay, that is this one, under the swing controls into this form. As a result, this button has been placed exactly right of this last text box or the last text field. So this is the position of the button. Next thing I have to do is to set the text property of that button as append. So for that, let me click on this button, okay, then inside this properties window I shall choose this text option, okay, and I shall remove this default text JButton1 and rename it to append. Now let me make the font size as bold. Okay, so I have left the font family as Tahoma itself. I have set the font style to bold and the font size to 14. And once I have set the text property of that button to append, I shall see the text append being inscribed onto this button like this. Then the next thing I have to do is drag a swing text area control onto the frame below the last name label and the text field. Now this is the last name label and this is the last text field. And I am going to drag the text area control from this swing controls panel onto this JFrame form. Now let me drag this text area control exactly below this last label, which is last name, and this last text field. So let me drag it now. So I shall drag it exactly over here. Now you can see clearly that this text area control has been placed exactly below the last label, which is last name, and this last text field. Now, in addition to this JFrame form, the design window also contains more controls, such as these labels, these text fields, this button, and this text area control. As a result, now you can see each of these controls being placed under the navigator window. This JFrame control was already placed before, and these are the newly placed controls starting from the JLabel 1, JLabel 2 and ending at the JScrollPane 1. Here JLabel 1 is the first name label, JLabel 2 is the middle name label, JLabel 3 is the last name label. Okay, and in the same way JTextField 1 is the text field corresponding to the first label, JTextField 2 is the text field corresponding to the second label, and JTextField 3 is the text field corresponding to the third label, which is the last name. Then JButton1 is this particular button, okay, with a text append. And this text area control is inside this scroll pane. Okay, so this is the text area control. This text area control is not directly placed onto this JFrame form. This JText area control has been placed inside a scroll panel, okay, and that scroll panel has been placed onto this JFrame form. Now let me show you the workflow of this interface design. At first, you have to supply the entries for the first name, middle name, and the last name in the respective text fields. And after you have supplied the entries in these text fields, you have to click on this append button. The click of this append button acts as an event. And during the process of this event, the entry for the first name shall be merged together with the entry for the middle name and the last name. And the combined entry, which is the full name of the person, shall be displayed in this text area control. Say for instance, if you have supplied the first name as Pranab, the middle name as Kumar, and the last name as Das Gupta, then after clicking this append button, you shall see the full name of the person, which is Pranab Kumar Das Gupta, in this text area control. So this full name consists of the first name Pranab, the middle name Kumar, and the last name Das Gupta. There is a space between the first name Pranab and the middle name Kumar, and again there is another space between the middle name Kumar and the last name Das Gupta. And this can be done when a series of Java statements gets executed after the click of this append button. Now let me show you how to do that. So at first I shall double click on the append button to generate the event handling code, and after double clicking on it, this will generate the JButton1 action performed method. Now let me double click on this append button, and once I do that, this brings me to this JButton1 action performed method, and then I shall type the following code inside the commented line, which is to do add your handling code here. This commented line is within this JButton1 action performed method. So here it is. This is the JButton1 action performed method. Okay, this method has a body as represented by this opening parenthesis and the closing parenthesis, and a series of Java statements shall have to be written inside the body of this method. As of now, inside the body of this method, you can see only the commented line as specified by double slash here. The commented line says to do add your handling code here. As a result, this particular commented line, which is to do add your handling code here, is this one. Okay, and that is inside the body of this method. Now I am going to put these series of Java statements. Okay, I am going to put these series of Java statements below the commented line, which is to do add your handling code here. So let me copy it and let me paste it here, that is below this commented line. Now this particular method specified by the name JButton1 action performed consists of 4 Java statements. Let me highlight it. So these are the 4 Java statements, and each of these Java statements shall be executed to produce the full name of the person as Pranab Kumar Das Gupta. Once the first name supplied was Pranab, middle name supplied was Kumar, and the last name supplied was Das Gupta, and that shall happen on the click of this append button, okay, which acts as an event. Now let me explain you the first Java statement. At first, the content of the first text field, the second text field, and the third text field has to be extracted using the getText method, and that is represented as jtextfield1 dot getText, jtextfield2 dot getText, and jtextfield3 dot getText, where jtextfield1 is the instance name of this particular text field. In the same way, jtextfield2 is the instance name of this particular text field, and jtextfield3 is the instance name of this particular text field. When the instance name jtextfield1 calls this getText method, then the value Pranab gets extracted out of this text field. Similar way, when this instance name jtextfield2 calls this getText method, then the value Kumar gets extracted out of this text field. And when the instance name jtextfield3 calls the getText method, then the value Das Gupta gets extracted out of this particular text field. And once these values gets extracted out of these text fields, they are merged together with the help of this plus operator, and they are merged in such a way that there is a gap between the value extracted from the first text field and the second text field, and there is another gap between the value extracted out from the second text field and the third text field. The gap is represented as a space, okay, which is enclosed within inverted comma, like this. As a result, when the first name is Pranab, middle name is Kumar, and the last name is Das Gupta, then you can see the gap in the full name like this. See, in between Pranav and Kumar there is a gap, and again in between Kumar and Das Gupta there is a gap. So that gap is represented by this. As a result, once we have merged the value from the first text field with the second text field and the third text field, that combined entry has to be added into this text area control. Okay. Now initially this text area control will be blank. As you can see here, initially this text area content will be blank. But once we have added the combined entry out of these three text fields into the text area control, I can see that this text area control displays the combined entry from each of these three text fields, and that is represented by this entire highlighted portion. Now as you can see here, the content of the text area control, which was initially blank, has been added into the value coming out of the combined entries of each of these three text fields. But for this, I have to call the append method with the help of the JTextArea1 object. So this JTextArea1 is the instance of this text area control, and with the help of this instance name, that is JTextArea1, I am calling the append method, okay, that shall add the entries of each of these text fields and store it in the text area control. And that is the reason that I can see the displayed text as Pranav Kumar Das Gupta in this text area control, where Pranav is coming out of the first text field, Kumar is coming out of the second text field, and Das Gupta is coming out of the third text field. And once the complete name of the person, which is Pranav Kumar Das Gupta, gets displayed here, I want the mouse cursor to move to the next line, okay, so that if I wish to add another person's name into this text area control, that will not appear in the same line as Pranav Kumar Das Gupta, okay. In fact, that will appear in a separate line, okay, and it will be below Pranav Kumar Das Gupta. Say for instance, if I wish to add another person with the first name as Ram, middle name as Prasad, and last name as Mondal, then this person's name shall appear in the next line after the first person, which is Pranav Kumar Das Gupta, and this is shown here. So for this to happen, I have put this /n character within inverted quote at the end, okay. This /n denotes the end of the line, so that /n marks the end of the first line, okay, and shifts the mouse cursor to the next line where the new entry Ram Prasad Mondal gets listed. And once these entries are displayed in this text area control, the text property of each of these text field should be cleared. That means once you have clicked this append button and added the full name of the person, okay, into this text area control, then you do no longer require these entries in these text fields, okay, and the text property of each of these text fields needs to be cleared, and that shall be done with the help of these three statements, okay. The first statement sets the text property of the first text field to blank, okay, that is this statement clears the text property of the first text field. Again, this statement clears the text property of the second text field, and this statement clears the text property of the third text field. And once these statements gets executed, you can see that just after clicking the append button, which generates an event, the first name, middle name and the last name of the person gets appended or added into this TextArea control, and that's why you can see the entry Ram Prasad Mondal getting displayed here. But the first name Ram and the middle name Prasad along with the last name Mondal has been deleted from these text fields because they are no longer required, and this deletion was made possible with the help of these 3 Java statements. Now let me show this to you from scratch by running the program. So I shall bring the mouse cursor over here and click this run button. So this is the interface design that I have developed. Now I shall supply the first name of the person as Pranab, the middle name as Kumar, and the last name as Dasgupta. And then I shall click on this append button, okay, which is actually the event. And once I have clicked this append button, I can see that the first name, middle name and last name has been appended into this TextArea control. But the contents of these text fields have disappeared because I have cleared the text property of these controls. Now let me add another person's name into this TextArea control. For that, let me supply his first name as Ram, middle name as Prasad and the last name as Mondal. And then let me click on this append button. And this puts Ram Prasad Mondal just after the first entry, which is Pranab Kumar Das Gupta. And the contents from these text fields disappears because the text property from each of these controls are cleared. Now note one thing, that these 2 persons' names are appearing in separate lines. This is because I have added this /n character at the end to mark the end of the line and to bring the mouse cursor to the next line. As a result, after the first entry shows Pranab Kumar Das Gupta, the next entry gets displayed in a separate line because of the /n character. So I hope this is clear, and with this I end my presentation here as well as the end of this chapter.